It's like
power.
sickening that it's even legal. It's sickening that it's close to legal.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's sickening that anybody would not, this wouldn't be punishable by life in prison, like you're literally just making life worse for everyone and every animal, and in a non-sustainable way, and like you're literally only doing it for money. Like, how is that acceptable?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm with you on that.
Go ahead, we're recording.
Okay, so first, did you guys decide on a name for your song?
Hold on, we're about to.
Have a suggestion? The working title is the Ocean Conservancy song. Ocean Conservation song. The Ocean Conservation Open Conversation.
Ooh. I like that. I thought about like Furious, Serious Ocean. It's kind of the with the line.
I have to think about the lyrics.
Yeah, you guys can ponder about it, and in the meantime, I'll ask you guys some questions regarding your song. Mm-hmm. So, Allison, since you wrote the song, what I found really impressive is that you fit so many interesting facts into your song, and a lot of the facts in the lyrics cover problems with ocean conservation on the global scale. So you mentioned things like coral reef bleaching, microplastics, greenhouse gases. But as a person living on the island of Montreal, what aspects of urban waterway conservation concern you the most?
So years ago, I was driving in the rain and I was listening to some crackly radio station, and there was an interview. It was French, and it was a woman who was she was diving in the St. Lawrence. Excuse me. She was fronting this project in the St. Lawrence River where they were diving and cleaning up the litter, like literal litter. And she said in her interview, every piece of plastic that's on the ocean floor, it's a human hand that put it in the wrong place for it to wind up there. So every single person on the island of Montreal has the option, when they have a piece of plastic in their hand, to do something responsible with it or not to. So we all just have to make that choice.
Yeah. At
the time that we have the choice.
Right, okay. And so you think that Montrealers, all Montrealers should be concerned about the decisions that they make concerning ocean conservation, with the pieces
Certainly.
of plastic in their hands, or the cars that they drive, or anything that can be contributing to the pollution.
Yeah, we all hear about the ways that we can help, and it's the amount that we choose to do the ways, but of course it's a lot to ask of every individual when there's bigger forces at work.
Of course. Yeah, good answers. And Mikey, how about you? How about a person living on Montreal Island? What are your biggest concerns for urban way conservation?
I want to be able to go swimming without catching a staph infection. Coming from New Orleans, you can't swim in that river. It's too dirty. And I thought coming up here in Montreal, I'd be able to have fun in the summer and go swimming. But then I found out that I thought the river went the whole other way, and now I figured out that we're getting all the stuff from Ontario and Detroit, and it's just it's gross.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, as we mentioned before, it'd be nice to go swimming in the place that you live in and not be concerned about how it could affect your body or your health or the health of the populace that live in the city, or even just the ecosystems that are around us.
Right.
So my next question for you, Allison, since this is your song, why do you think people in general are complacent towards pollution in the ocean and the human impacts that we have on the ocean?
I think the complacency comes from a source of powerlessness. We all see that there are, as much as we can do as an individual, and it feels like it doesn't matter if not every individual does it, but even if we could convince every, or at least most individuals to do it, it's still extremely frustrating to choose not to flush your pee because that's too much water, but then you see the Montreal mayor decides to dump gallons of millions, 1 million gallons of untreated sewage into the St. Lawrence River. And then not just the mayor, and then there's like every single corporation. We make aluminum, we refine oil in Quebec. Pauline Marois opened the oil sands in the Arctic to drilling, which is the most, other than fracking, harmful way to make oil and extract it. But we shouldn't even be using oil, and the government isn't taking big enough steps to force companies not to pollute. And it's not just the Canadian government, it's the whole world that is responsible for this. And it's frustrating for the individual to see these huge things happening all around them and they're not being regulated. But at the same time, you're like, well, I'm not going to order a drink because they might give me a plastic straw and I would be mortified.
Yeah. yeah, that's a great answer. Absolutely. A lot of the populace is complacent about these issues, and I mean, it's a mixture of things like lack of knowledge or lack of information, and like you said, Allison, being overwhelmed from this information, so choosing that sort of ignorance is bliss notion to live by, because it's there are issues that could affect our livelihoods and the way that we live and our grandchildren, our children. So it's nice to meet people and musicians that care about these things. Because through your music, you're going to share this kind of information and hopefully change something at the grassroots level.
That was the idea behind becoming a musician, really. Not just for oceans, but for, conservation on a world scale. Hopefully, if I said it to enough people would listen. But my outlook on that, my ability to change things has changed over the years. Just like everyone.
But in the beginning of this crisis, remember how we saw the water was getting clear in like Venice and these other places in the world that you could see just from a little short period of mindfulness or doing nothing helps.
Yeah.
It brings it back.
Yeah, and that's part of what's so frustrating, because it's like we know what to do, we know how to fix it, and we're not. And it's not me and you who are not. It's the people who have the power to cause change who are not taking action, and they need to take action.
Okay. But it's interesting that you bring that up, because it leads me into my next question, and I'll ask both of you this question. So since it's the powers that be that have sort of the power to change the people, what kind of ways that you and I could take, or other people can take in our sort of circles or our network, to change the way that we do things regarding ocean conservation, or ocean literacy, or the protection of our ocean urban waterways just in the city of Montreal? So that could be like digital media, or getting the message out there with people. What are the best things that you would say? Or
I think you just need to, however you normally communicate about everything that's on your mind, if you use digital media or if you're confiding in friends, just use those same paths to talk about what you do personally. Like, mention that you don't buy clothes new, because new clothes contain, the newly created microplastics, and the ones that are in thrift shops, well, they've already been created. And we don't want to fuel those industries. Make choices that are in your own personal life. Make as many choices as you can that are pro-planet, pro-ocean, pro-waterway, and talk about them. Talk about making those choices with your friends, because you don't have to tell them what to do. You just have to tell them what you do, and then they might think, okay, maybe I can do that. Or maybe they would at least feel... My friend who I was just talking to before I came here says she feels shame, or she says in her head, what would Allison say every time she opens like a Nescafe or like a little like one of those cups, Keurig cup type of coffees. She was like, Allison, not everyone scoops out their coffee and puts a new one. Like, that's what I do with those machines. I reuse them.
Oh, okay, wow, that's unique. Not a lot of people.
There's a YouTube video on how to do it if you would like to know.
I'll check it out later. Absolutely.
Yeah. So she was like, you do that. Not everybody does that. And I'm like, well, not everybody does that. But even her, she's thinking about it.
But she doesn't do it.
She's not doing it, but she's at least, it's on her mind. So maybe she was like, I feel shame. And I was like, well, you feeling shame is the first step.
Okay, so you think that a thought would be the first step towards changing, but what brings about those kind of thoughts into actions? How do we perpetuate those thoughts that are lingering into our minds and then transform them into changing? Because like Mikey said, it took a pandemic for us to sort of leave things alone in nature and things sort of changed on their own.
Mm-hmm.
How do we perpetuate that action? Mikey can answer this.
I don't know if I can. I don't know. We gotta just be vigilant and don't throw your freaking cigarette butts on the ground, and cut up those 6-pack holders. Every time you see them, you gotta rip them apart, because you're saving turtles. And you put something in the metro stations, like, don't litter. It should be obvious, but it's not obvious to people, and it's just more convenient for them to litter than to walk 20 steps and throw something in the waste bin.
That's a good point. I think we have to make it easy. Make it easy to make the right choice, because I think people want to make the right choice, but it's a little bit inconvenient, or it's a little harder or something. But if you just make the right choice available and easy and easier even than the harder the worst choice, then you can. But that's what I'm saying is, like, put it on a grand scale. Make there only be paper straws available instead of plastic straws or whatever.
Right.
Plastic straws on a case by case, really necessary basis, but if you just make it widely accessible and much easier to do the right thing, then people will want to do the right thing. They do want to do the right thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
I heard about a city, I'm not sure where, but they put up this like vending machine thing where you can pay for your metro ticket with trash. So you pick up like 5 pieces of trash or whatever, and then you can pay for your ticket that way.
Huh.
So something like that would be more incentive for people to.
People are just going to start picking out garbage cans
Yeah,
to pay for the
trash. We'll worry about that when we get there, but.
Yeah, those are really fantastic items that you both brought up. And my final question for you both, I'll start with Allison since it's your song. How do you think that you writing this song could raise awareness in your micro communities? How could it impact people on just bringing awareness on ocean conservation?
I mean, I have no idea if it will really help or not, but I mean, I'm just mentioning things that I do in my life, and we all do, like the cup thing. You could ask for a paper cup, or you could just bring your own cup. Those are things, and you can, like I said, try and get clothes secondhand if you need new clothes, and try to space out how often you get new clothes. And definitely recycle your old stuff, give it away to people who need it, try to dispose of it in the most, like, with longevity in mind, with, like, how long will this thing last? Like, if it's stuff that still works that you no longer need, pass it on to people or shops that could sell it. If you have stuff that's broken, then, take it apart and dispose each part in a responsible fashion if you can. And I know it sounds like a lot of work, but it becomes second nature once you start really putting your heart into it and doing it all the time.
Yeah, it's very true.
And it makes a big difference over the course of your life.
Yeah. So hopefully your song will have that sort of influence on people.
Yeah, and it's catchy.
It's a lot to
It
ask.
is catchy. It's a catchy song.
And like 3 listens in, people are going to be like organizing a rally to save it. And compost. You need to use the compost, and we need to go after whatever corporations are dumping their shit in the fishbowl.
And with that satirical approach to ocean conservation too, it will sort of ring some alarms in people's minds. I mean, I guess sometimes when things are a bit too serious, it could be daunting. But the way that you've written your song and the way that you come in, Mikey, with your hilarious, like, it makes me furious.
Yeah.
That could be something that could suggest some attention too, because it's fun to listen to and it's not daunting, but you're talking about a serious topic. So it's a really good way to expose or showcase something that is serious in the first place.
Yeah, if you just talk about a serious subject all monotone and no one's gonna listen. People are gonna lose interest within 15 seconds. So gotta be funny about it, or sexy about it, or musical about it,
right,
or all the above. Which refer to our song for that.
Absolutely.
yeah, it's hard to talk about stuff that you feel very strongly about. I've always found in songs, you know, I'd rather talk about subjects that are light and you know, easy to think about and fun to think about. But yeah, I mean, I guess if you do it with a little bit of humor, you can soften the blow.
Yeah, absolutely. And you did a really great job, by the way, with your song. So thank you guys for coming today to Scott Russell Studios and sharing your composition with us. It's really been a slice sharing tea with you and listening to your guys' passion.
I like the ginger slices in that tea.
Yeah,
yeah. Next level on
especially after acupuncture, that could totally add something to it.
Definitely.
Oh, and I want to point out, I mentioned whales and echolocation. I know that it's not like the big cetaceans that echolocate, it's like dolphins, but there's two issues that I'm addressing there. They're actually separate. There's one that's like, it's like huge sound blasts that ships are using and it's stressing the whales out. And then there's other types of sounds that humans are beginning to use that it kind of messes with the network of dolphin echolocation. Okay. So it's in one line and I'm melding the two subjects, but they are two separate things.
Okay, good to know. Thanks for clarifying. Cool.